Why do cheaters always continue to bend their line even after they are caught? There are obvious facts of treason, and they keep saying that it's not true. My wife, whom I trusted, brazenly deceived me, cheated on me, and also accused me of her infidelity. "Brown, I can't believe you have the nerve to show up here," Dave Pohl sneered as I entered and sat down at the table I would come to despise. He, of all people, knew what had gone down on it earlier. "Had a rough night? Can you even afford to be here?" He was talking tough, but it had been a different story just moments before. When he first opened the hotel room door and saw me, he tried to shut it right away, the coward. It took some convincing to assure him I wouldn't cause any trouble. Not that any of them couldn't have taken me down, except maybe Kenny, but they just wanted to play their game, and I promised that was my intention too. It showed how little they thought of me that they let me in. I had always despised him. Some things never change, do they? The petty part of me was enjoying the fact that he was pushing 300 pounds, and not in a good way, while sporting a ridiculously rodent-like toupee. We weren't even 30 yet. "Let him be," sneered Roger, another one of the lackeys. "Look at the guts on him. Major wife trouble in front of everyone, and he still shows up here. Probably wants revenge. No way he can focus. We'll clean him out in 20 minutes. I could see why they thought that. I only had $5,000 to buy in, the bare minimum for this game. I'd have to make a move quickly or I'd be out soon, and I was definitely in the mood to make something happen. People often say there's no such thing as an ugly baby, but I have to respectfully disagree. My wife never liked showing off her baby pictures, and her grade school yearbooks were buried at the bottom of a box in the attic. She didn't look much better in junior high, where we first met, or even in high school. She was always considered the ugly one in her class and endured a lot of bullying throughout her childhood. I remember it well. I was there for some of it. It was rough. As for me, I wasn't exactly a catch back then either. People used to say I looked like a squirrely Michael Keaton. At the time, the general opinion was that Mr. Keaton already looked pretty squirrely, and I just took it to the next level. I wasn't bullied as much as I was ignored, which I convinced myself was fine. Okay, maybe it wasn't, but what could I do? At least no one beat me up. Plus, I had a really unfortunate name. I only knew her in passing, enough to nod at her in the hallways, but Gloria and I got to know each other really well during our junior year of high school, when we both worked on the school newspaper. The student editor, a senior, crumbled under the pressure, and we were made co-editors to share the workload. We worked tirelessly on that little paper. We spent countless late nights editing articles, rewriting them, fixing layouts, redoing layouts, cropping photos, and sometimes even retaking them. You get the picture. It became our baby, just ours. Gloria and I often didn't leave the school until after 11, so late that our advisor bent the rules and gave us a key so we could lock up ourselves, definitely against the rules. As I got to know Gloria better, I realized that no matter what else was happening, she was the coolest person I'd ever met, and not just because she was the only girl who would talk to me. I wasn't exactly an outcast, but she spent a lot of time alone, and she used that time wisely. She seemed to know everything and could answer almost any question you threw at her. On top of that, she had a sharp wit and an incredible ability to read people, thanks to her dad. I thought she was amazing, truly amazing. We were friends for a long time until we went to the junior prom together. I don't think either of us realized we had feelings for each other. We just wanted to go and knew we wouldn't make it there otherwise. She didn't look the best in her dress, and I definitely didn't look great in my tux, but we crossed the line from friends that night, and we have the photos to prove it. I always assumed people thought we were dating on equal footing, but I found out in the locker room what they really thought. I overheard Brad Weedy telling Dave Pohl that I might look like a dumbed-down Michael Keaton, but Gloria just looked plain dumb. I clenched my fists when I heard that, but they were both jocks, the high school elite, and either one could have easily hurt me, so I stayed silent. When people finally noticed we were dating, those two became some of our harshest critics, especially Brad, who bluntly asked me how I could even stand to be seen in public with her. I would just say, "You don't know her, she's awesome," but in a way, they had a point. It's not that I was ashamed of her, but I knew that in terms of attractiveness, I was way ahead. Not to brag, but I was on the water polo team, and my lean, muscular build did catch the eye of a few girls. Was I some kind of saint who didn't care about appearances and was only impressed by inner beauty, like some sort of sapio-intimacial? Absolutely not. I definitely lusted after the cheerleaders, especially the enticing Davida Delacour, whose claim to fame was the perfect camel toe in her tight cotton shorts. She even flirted with unattractive guys like me. Bless her. I didn't think I could do better than Gloria, and after a while, I didn't want to. She was genuinely the coolest girl I knew. Back then, Gloria could best be described as skinny. She had no chest, no curves, no shape at all. Chekhov once said that eyes and hair are what save unattractive women, but Gloria had short, way too short, red hair, and even if she had pretty eyes, who could tell under those thick glasses? Her complexion was mostly freckles with a bit of skin peeking through, but her teeth, oh, those teeth. They were so big, they practically distorted her whole face. She couldn't understand it, because her mother was a stunning example of beauty, and her college-aged brother was pretty good-looking too. Her mother noticed our frustration and encouraged us to be patient. "Just wait, you two," she would say. "Just wait. I have a feeling." You never want your parents to be right about anything, but in this case, we did. She was absolutely right, but growing up took a lot longer than we had hoped. Have you noticed how Michael Keaton got better looking over time? The same thing happened to me. I also became an all-conference player on my college water polo team, so my body kept improving. I started getting appreciative glances wherever I went, which was nice, but still, I wasn't a big deal. During the summer between our junior and senior years of college, Gloria underwent a remarkable transformation. Almost overnight, she developed into a graceful hourglass figure. Later, she confided in me that the change felt like growing pains and was incredibly painful, but we both agreed it was worth it. Her hair, once grown out, turned into a fiery mane of flowing locks that I couldn't resist touching. Her freckles faded away, except for a charming little patch on the inside of her right knee. It always made her giggle when I kissed them, and her skin became a smooth, alabaster wonder. The most astounding change, however, was in her face. She had worn braces for 6 years, yes, 6 long years, because her teeth were in bad shape. But, and this is significant, after getting her braces off, undergoing LASIK surgery, and simply maturing into her features, by the age of 21, she could rival a young Anne Margaret. She no longer resembled her mother as much as her Aunt Kim, who had been a successful bikini model in the 90s. I started to look really clever. All my friends and acquaintances said I must have seen it coming, but I was just as surprised as anyone else. Gloria knew that and loved me even more for it. She was constantly hit on, sometimes even when I was right beside her if I so much as looked away, but she would just laugh when it happened. "You've got to be kidding me," she'd say, snuggling into me and kissing my neck. Yeah, life was great. We were already living together and unofficially engaged when all this happened, and neither of us felt the need to change anything. We planned to get married as soon as one of us got a job after graduation. It ended up being me, but it easily could have gone the other way. Our life turned out quite well. We rarely quarreled, and if we did, we tried to keep things fair at first. We both chose successful careers and were able to buy our first small house just 3 years after our wedding. It wasn't easy at first, but we did it. We tried intimacy earlier, and it wasn't great. That's when Gloria intervened. After our second awkward attempt, she insisted that we both go through a series of intensive training sessions under her guidance. These classes featured proximity guides, personal stories, and anything else that could improve our skills. And we did it. I've learned more than 50 ways to please her. We both agreed that even though neither of us had ever been with anyone else, we would never, under any circumstances, cheat. We were certain that no one could be as satisfying in bed as we were for each other, and that was a relief. I don't think either of us could have handled the rejection. We promised to be honest with each other if we ever started feeling restless, to nip any issues in the bud, so to speak. Her father, a recovering alcoholic, had cheated on her mother for years with numerous partners. Gloria loved him, but had very strong feelings about his behavior, and I completely agreed with her. We got married young, why wait, and were both happy to have found our one and only so early in life. She called me her hot husband, and I called her my wow wife. Don't ask, pet names are silly. Our only real issue was Gloria's low tolerance for alcohol. She was definitely a lightweight. 2 beers and she'd be completely drunk. Just one mixed drink would make her incredibly horny, ready for anything. You'd think I would take advantage of that, but after experiencing the real Gloria, the sloppy, drunk version just wasn't any fun. This girl had skills, and you wanted her to be at her best. I had hoped that spending a second consecutive New Year's Eve waiting outside the restroom at a club while my wife was sick would be a wake-up call for her. Instead of celebrating with everyone else as they counted down, I found myself listening to her throw up behind a closed door. Twice. I was angry, but it didn't make a difference. Things finally reached a breaking point when she got a DUI and lost her license for 6 months. The court required her to attend AA meetings, which she started going to with her dad, who had been in AA since before she was born. It actually helped them reconnect, as he had been absent from her life for a long time. In the end, we were thankful for the DUI because it forced us to address some unresolved issues. "Stop acting so holier than thou. This is just like your stupid gambling addiction, you degenerate," she snapped at me once. "There's no difference." "Oh, but there is," I shot back. "I'm good at gambling." She couldn't argue with that. I learned how to play poker in my first college statistics class, and when Texas Hold'em became popular nationwide, I made some money. I made US some money. By that time, we were living together, and my little hobby often made the difference between eating meat or ramen that week. I never got a thank you, but she had no problem eating that chicken. As we approached our late 20s, I began to notice a shift in her. We had married young with the plan to have children early as well. We thought we'd have all the energy to chase after them in our mid-20s, and by the time they left for college, we'd still be in our 40s and energetic enough to enjoy our time alone. An empty nest was never part of our vision, but for years now, she had been resisting. Initially, there was no clear or consistent reason. She wanted to advance in her career, spend more time alone with me, wait until she felt more mature, save more money, travel first. Just a long list of excuses. One night, after a particularly pleasant time, she lay on her back and looked at me, and I decided to ask, "I think we are ready for children. What do you say about this?" "How about right after the reunion?" she asked. "I'll take it off when we get back, and we'll turn into toy-making machines. What do you say?" "Why wait?" I hugged her and kissed her on the nose. "Because it's just around the corner. We won't be waiting long. You know it's not going to be easy. I don't want anything to stop our baby from carrying a child." "Why worry?" I asked. "You hate these people. Are you even sure you want to go?" "Yes, damn it, I want to go," she said. "They'll just look at all this and their eyes will pop out. I want them to see what they missed." I said, and I didn't really like it. "I don't think I missed anything." "Of course you didn't, honey," she said, perhaps realizing that she had been tactless. "But you can't blame me for wanting to show off a little, can you? They made my life hell." "You know, it wasn't a picnic for me either," I put in. "Yes, you've had a hard time," she admitted, "but not at all like me. That's why I'm going to rule tonight." Baby," I said, "I don't want to upset you, but as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter how much you've changed. Usually everyone returns to their pre-assigned roles. You might not like it." "This can't be happening," she said. "I guarantee you that I will be the hottest thing there." "What about me?" I asked. What place do I occupy in your little plan? Oh, you'll be there for me, my hot hubby, she said. I started to doubt it, but then she started stroking me. It turned into a real paradise. We enjoyed each other. When I relaxed, I couldn't help but admire how effectively she used intimacy to silence me. Although it worked, she had never had to resort to me with such tactics before. I was worried about the distance she seemed to create between us, and it bothered and confused me. Gloria was always eager to dive into research, so when she resolved to get in top shape for the reunion, her visits to our gym, which we belonged to but seldom used, became intense and frequent. She invited me to join her, but we both knew it was more of a formality. She knew I disliked her workout attire and didn't want to see her being hit on constantly. Instead, I found an intense intramural basketball game that was more than enough to get my heart racing. Her results were almost legendary. In just a few weeks, she dropped a dress size and her thighs became incredibly toned, much to my satisfaction. She had never been out of shape, per se. She had simply transformed her already impressive physique into something even more perfect. But it wasn't for me. One day, she left her laptop open while she rushed to take a shower. I noticed she had been stalking all the attractive people who were attending the reunion. Hope Lanwell, Heidi Clemens, Brad and Davita Weed, Roger Mayhew, Dave Pohl, and others from the in-crowd who had tormented her. They were all going to be there. I hoped she wouldn't embarrass herself, or me, too much that night, and could finally rid herself of whatever demons were driving her. Self-esteem can be a demanding mistress. I noticed she was avoiding eye contact while we were driving back to our hometown before the reunion, which was a clear sign that something was bothering her that she didn't want to share. It reminded me of her behavior during her drinking days, and I was definitely not missing it. "You're really pushing it, aren't you?" "Pushing what?" she replied with wide eyes and fake innocence. But I wasn't deceived. Her attitude had become more irritable as the weekend approached, which had to mean something. "What are you planning to do tonight? Why don't you clarify what you mean? I can't respond to your questions if you're not clear. I can't read your mind." Her irritation was another one of her old tactics to get me defensive. She knew it always made me shut down to avoid conflict. I was fed up with it and not in the mood. If she was going to try to manipulate me, she could at least come up with some new strategies. "You know exactly what I mean," I said curtly. "Why won't you let me see your dress?" "Because I want to surprise you with how intimacy I'm going to look, dummy," she replied playfully. "Oh, I know how intimacy you are," I said. "I'm proud of you. I don't mind you showing off." "Good," she said triumphantly, "because that's exactly what I plan to do. But don't show too much, okay? Define too much." I was silent. "Look, Rick, you know me. Have I ever embarrassed you before?" I remained quiet, but must have given her a look. "I mean, besides that." "God," she exclaimed. "It's been 3 years. 3 years. You'd think that would earn me some credit." "Just tell me what you're planning," I said. "Well, Rick," she responded with irritation, "I'm not going to do anything, but I am going to look amazing, have fun, and they're all going to regret how they treated me back then." "Why? Why what? Why would they regret it now? Why should they care? That was a long time ago. What difference does it make what you're like now, 10 years later?" "Oh, Ricky, Ricky, Ricky," she sang. "You may know a lot about a lot, but you don't understand women. They'll care. Trust me." "So it's just the women you want to impress?" I asked. "Mostly," she said, sounding a bit defensive. "Sweetie, you can't blame me for wanting to get a bit of revenge on the guys who were so nasty. You just can't." "Are you happy with me, Gloria?" I asked. "Are you satisfied with the life we have?" "Oh, baby," she said, unbuckling her seatbelt and moving closer to cuddle me. "Is that what this is about? I love you. I love us. Don't ever doubt it." "Yeah, well, I notice there's no we in any of what you're saying. It's all me and Now that I think about it, more me. It's like you don't even care that I'm here. Maybe it would have been better for you if I had stayed home." "That's absolutely not true," she snapped, pulling away. "Oh, really?" I said coolly. "What am I wearing tonight?" "What?" "You'd think you'd want your partner to look good too, to be proud of him so we can make a great impression together, maybe even coordinate a bit. But you have no clue, do you?" "But you look good in anything, honey. You know how to dress. I trust you." "Please." There was silence for a few minutes. I could see her thinking hard. "So what are you wearing?" she finally asked. "None of your damn business," I retorted. "Okay," she said. "Truce. I deserve that." I didn't respond. What was there to say? "Look," she said, stepping closer. "You don't know what it was like for me back then." "I think I do," I said sharply. "You've told me about it often enough. I've heard you talk about it at your meetings endlessly." "But you don't really know," she insisted. "You think you do, but you don't." "I'm tired of you talking down to me," she continued, moving as far away as she could against the door as she got more agitated. "Tired of it. I've been looking forward to this night for years. I even thought about it while waiting for my eye surgery." "Really?" I asked dryly. "That long?" "Yeah, that long, jerk," she said. "You don't know what it was like to be the ugly girl. And don't even try to argue," she added, anticipating that I would try to downplay or deny her feelings. "I'm a swan, and I'm going to shine tonight. Don't you dare hold me back." "I'm not trying to hold you back," I said. "Yes, you are," she shouted. "Yes, you are, Rick." I glanced at the speedometer and saw it had hit 98 miles per hour without me even realizing. "Babe," I said as we slowed down, "we need to ease up before we end up off the road. We were nearly doing 100. "Oh, Jesus, be more careful, honey." "Let me just say this," I continued. "I'm not trying to get the last word or anything, but I didn't fall in love with you just for your looks, and I don't think you fell for me only because of mine either. That's not—" I always tell anyone who asks. You were, and still are, the coolest person I know. That's what they missed about you back then. Their loss. Just be yourself, and show them how cool you are. The physical part is just a bonus." "Really?" "Someday, we're both going to be old and not as attractive, but you'll still be the coolest person I know." "Do I even deserve you?" she asked, her voice trembling. Was she wiping away tears? Not at all. I wasn't thrilled with the dress, but on second thought, it wasn't the worst option. It was a shade of turquoise, aquamarine, or teal. Something in that range. It did the job of highlighting her fair, pale skin and making her striking green eyes stand out, but it was cut too short and revealed more cleavage than I was comfortable with. Gloria, however, adored it and soaked up the attention. She was the center of everyone's gaze and was completely at ease with it. As expected, the old cliques reformed, but she navigated them with ease, always pulling me along. As we approached the popular table, I noticed her tense up. "We don't have to engage with them," I said, squeezing her hand. "Don't worry." "I'm not worried," she replied, and when I glanced down, I saw that she truly wasn't. She was excited. Everyone was polite. There were air kisses and superficial hugs all around. While Brad, Dave, and the others seemed genuinely pleased to see Gloria, their reaction to me was less welcoming. "Ulrich," Brad said, not extending his hand. "Bradley," I replied, keeping my hand to myself. "Are we interrupting something?" Gloria asked. "Not really," Davida answered with a hint of weariness. She had married Brad somewhere along the way. What a shock. "They're setting up the big poker game for later. I'm sure you remember those. The boys were quite the card sharks back then." Oh, I remembered those poker games. They were held late Friday nights, exclusively for the wealthy or popular. Not surprisingly, I was never invited and had always wanted to go. "Rick plays poker," Gloria mentioned. Why don't you let him join in? Not for the weak, Dave replied. I don't think he could handle it. Don't worry, I wasn't seriously asking, I said, though I felt a bit hurt. God, these guys were still jerks. He's a good, Gloria began, but I gently nudged her foot to stop her. No need to let that secret slip. For heaven's sake, what's wrong with you guys? Davida asked. It's a big buy-in, Rick, $5,000. They won't negotiate on that, but if you have it, of course you can play. Says who? Roger Mayhew interjected. Says all of us, said a sweet-looking woman I assumed was his wife. I agree with Davida. What's wrong with you guys? Seriously, it's no big deal, I said, now feeling embarrassed. No, Brad smirked. It'll be at 1:30 in room 615. If you can come up with the 5, go ahead. But you'll probably need more. Things can go downhill fast. This game is for the big players. I don't know, maybe you can sell your car or something. Listen, buddy, you have no idea what kind of car I started getting heated. Thanks to Gloria's persistence, I knew where we stood. He should have checked too. Maybe then he'd shut up. Hey Bradley, that's not cool, Gloria snapped, now the one nudging me with her foot. Apologize to my husband right now. You promised everyone would be nice tonight. Don't ruin it before the night even begins. I looked at her in surprise and noticed Davida doing the same with Brad. He was glaring at Gloria, who appeared noticeably uncomfortable. Have you two been in touch? I asked. Well, yeah, she replied, shifting awkwardly from foot to foot, very uncharacteristic. Davida seemed intrigued, while Brad avoided making eye contact with any of us. Why? I just wanted a heads up on who would be here. Oh, really? Davida questioned, though there was an underlying meaning I couldn't quite grasp. Yeah, well... Gloria hesitated for a moment. It was nice seeing everyone. We'll catch up later, okay? She pulled me away, and we continued to mingle, greeting other couples and groups. Gloria eventually shook off her nervousness and returned to her usual lively self. I think she was hoping it would all just blow over. I stayed mostly quiet, simmering inside the entire time. Finally, I pulled her aside. What? She asked, noticing the expression on my face. Don't what me? Why didn't you tell me you were talking to him? Well, Mr. High and Mighty, I wouldn't exactly say we talked. We just exchanged a few words about the reunion. Anyway, it's not a big deal. Do you tell me about everyone you talk to every day? Pretty much, especially if it's a woman, and especially if it's someone I despise who made my life hell in school. I don't understand you. Jesus, Rick. People can say hi, you know. It's called the internet. I don't know what's going on, I said, but you're hiding something. We need to talk. Oh, talk, Gloria sang. That's all we ever do is talk. Well, not now. This is my night, and you will not ruin it by throwing a tantrum, you hear me? I gazed at her, bewildered. In over a decade of knowing her, even during her drunken moments, I had never seen this side of her. Saying I was a little unsettled would be an understatement. So, she said, let's enjoy the night. We can talk tomorrow until you're blue in the face. You will anyway. I was about to lose it, and she could see it coming. Okay. That was out of line. I admit it. Uncalled for, she said, her tone softening. Rick, I just reached out to a few people to make sure they'd be here, that's all. Now come on, let's enjoy ourselves and be the stars of the night. This is our moment to shine. I wasn't convinced, but I let her lead me onto the dance floor. She looked stunning in her dress, and we danced a couple of times, but she seemed distracted. Usually when we danced, her focus was entirely on me, but now she kept glancing around. Can we sit down? She finally asked. These heels are killing me. Sure, I said, guiding her to a table. Our drinks hadn't even arrived when Brad suddenly appeared. May I have this dance? He asked her, blatantly ignoring me. I was just about to tell him she was tired when Gloria quickly stood up and took his hand. I'd love to, she replied, leaving me there without even a glance back. I watched them for a while. She wasn't looking around anymore. Her focus was entirely on him now. Mind if I join you? I felt a light touch on my shoulder. I looked up to see Davida smiling at me. Sure. Oh, you don't have to, she said, as I stood up to help her with her chair. But thank you. Do you want a drink? Already got one, she said, holding up her glass. Good to see you again, I said politely. You too, Rick, she replied, noticing my gaze fixed on the dance floor. There's something going on there, I remarked. I think so, she agreed. Unfinished business. What do you mean? She always had a thing for him, everyone knew it. I didn't. All I ever heard was how badly he treated her. All the girls knew, she said with a frown. That was before you two got together, so why would you? Good point, I said, feeling down. He found out, and of course he made her suffer for it. What a jerk. Yes, he was. Did you? Was everyone as terrible as she says? I'm not proud of it, she admitted. But yes, we all were. Why? Do you realize how much that messed up her entire life? I know, she said, wringing her hands. We were just like a mob, a pack of wolves targeting the weakest. I don't know why we did it. People try to forget about it on nights like this, but I wanted to apologize to her. For everything. That's nice. But I see she has her own plan tonight. I agree, I said. She hasn't shared much with me, except that it's her night. What do you think she's up to? I think, she began, a bit too loudly, because just then the music paused as the song changed. Some DJ. We waited to see if the lovely couple would dance again. They did. Their eyes were only for each other. Their conversation seemed lively, maybe too friendly. When did she suddenly get so attractive? About 6 or 7 years ago, I think. 7 years? I don't get it. That's plenty of time to get used to it. She should be more confident by now. She usually is, but this is the first time we've seen anyone from back here, I explained. Oh, that makes sense. Anyway, she's definitely gorgeous now, Davida remarked. And she clearly wants everyone to notice, especially Brad. Well, it looks like it's working, I responded gloomily. She wasn't exactly dancing provocatively with him, but it wasn't exactly wholesome either. It wouldn't be the first time, Davida said with a hint of darkness. What do you mean? I asked, turning towards her. Has he... Plenty of times, she said sadly. I've caught on to him more times than I can count. I've never caught him red-handed, but honestly, I haven't tried that hard. You mean on you, I said. He's cheated on you? Excuse me, but that's hard to believe. No one would do that to you. You're one of the most beautiful women I've ever met. You look even better now than you did back then. Are you talking about these? She chuckled, cupping her breasts and pushing them up to show off some impressive cleavage. Bet you never thought little Dee would end up with D-cups, huh? I stammered, unsure of how to respond. You're just the sweetest, she said. Aren't you curious if they're real? How much they cost? Not really, I replied. It's none of my business, and besides, you're not my wife, so... Now I have to tell you, just to see how embarrassed you get, she said playfully. They're not really D-cups, just regular Ds, but they're real and completely natural. That's nice, I replied, trying to sound neutral. The good news is that when I got pregnant, there they were, and they've been with me ever since, she said. That's why we got married, because of the pregnancy. Oh, I replied. How old? Well, here's the bad news, she continued. I lost the baby before it was born. I'm sorry. It's okay, she said dismissively. It was a long time ago. I've moved on. But he's done it, she returned to the subject I wished would disappear, given the scene unfolding in front of us. Again and again. Then why do you stay with him? I asked. I don't know, she said. I guess because everyone always expected us to be together. I was kind of waiting for this reunion, to see if we could reignite some old sparks, you know? Yeah? But it seems like he's more interested in sparking something with someone else. Yeah, with my wife, I said, watching the two of them, much too close, slow dancing. Do you think his hand is on her ass? I'd say, technically, it's still on her lower back, Davida said. But do you want to cut in before it gets there? Yes, I do, I said, and we moved to intercept them. They weren't talking anymore. Her head was resting on his chest in a classic romantic embrace. His face was buried in her hair. For all I knew, he could have been kissing the top of her head. Mind if I dance with my wife? I asked, tapping him on the shoulder. Actually, I do, he smirked. Why don't you back off? You can have her when I'm done. What do you think, sweetheart? I asked Gloria. She didn't even open her eyes, ignoring me as she snuggled closer to him. I was starting to lose my temper. I couldn't understand why she thought it was okay to humiliate me like this in front of everyone, but it was getting to the point where I wasn't sure I'd be able to control what I'd say to her. We had been standing there for quite a while, and if I had to leave the dance floor without her, I was considering leaving the room, maybe even the hotel altogether. Let his wife go, you idiot! Davida screamed, delivering a hard slap to the back of his head. They both jumped and quickly separated, so I grabbed Gloria's hand and pulled her back to our table, not very gently, I might add. What the hell are you doing? She hissed once we were seated. How dare you embarrass me like that? Me? Embarrass you? That's rich, I replied. What are you trying to pull? I'm not trying to pull anything, she pouted. We were just dancing. That was way more than just dancing. I think it's time we leave. What? She shouted. Just when I'm starting to have fun, you want to end it? No way, not happening. Gloria, the way you're disrespecting me right now, this is breakup territory. Are you serious? She sputtered. Our marriage can't handle a little flirting? Are you that insecure? This is far beyond flirting, and you know it. It's humiliating. Oh, the big man can't handle his wife getting attention. What a baby. Whatever. Baby, she mocked. Wah, wah, wah. I just sat there, staring at her in utter disbelief. What on earth was going on? Had she completely lost her mind? Was she high? Had something caused her to regress? Thank you, I heard her say as the server finally brought the drinks. I took a sip of mine and realized it was rum and coke. So there was an explanation. Gloria, is this? Yup, Cuba Libre's my favorite. Brad ordered them for me. I made sure you got one too. You're welcome. Ah, I see now. How many have you had? This is my first one, Sherlock. You've been with me all night. When would I have had the chance? Put that down, right now. We're leaving. I reached over to take her hand, but she pulled away, glaring at me. Gloria, what about your sobriety? That's my decision. It's my sobriety, not yours. Well, what about our marriage? I'm warning you. You're on thin ice. Listen, asshole, she hissed, baring her teeth. When we said our vows, I don't remember agreeing that you own me, okay? Stop being so controlling. I can drink what I want. I can dance with whoever I want. This, she gestured at her body, is mine, and I can do what I want with it. You can either come along for the ride or get out of my way. Finally, an easy decision, I said, standing up from my chair. No, wait, she shouted, moving as if to follow me. Please sit back down, please. I'm sorry. I didn't sit. I stood there, looking down at her. Just let me have this, okay? She asked, looking at me with hopeful eyes. Please? If by this you mean getting drunk and flirting with other guys, then no, I'm not letting that happen. Flirting? Letting me? She shouted. Who do you think you are? Letting me? Seriously? I'm your husband, in case you forgot. And what are you even talking about? I responded. You just said it yourself. Go to hell, do whatever you want, she retorted. I'm staying. No, you go to hell and do whatever you want, I shot back. I'm leaving. So I left, but didn't go far. I stepped out for a minute, but then I came back and stood at the back for the next hour, watching her get more drunk and dirty dance with whoever came along, but always returning to hang on Brad and Dave. especially Brad. Nobody talked to me for a while. I think they were too embarrassed for me and didn't know what to say. Who could blame them? But after some time, Kenny Kirk and Roger Mayhew came over and bought me a beer. I remembered Kenny fondly, but I couldn't figure out why Roger would want to talk to me, considering he was in Brad's circle. That's when I looked around and realized Gloria was gone. I broke away from these two liars and took the elevator to our room, but of course she wasn't there. I sat there shivering, then I thought, what the hell, and decided to go to room 615, the only other room I knew. Of course, there was someone there, and they were engaged in intimacy. I pressed my ear to the door, but because of the noise I couldn't make out who it was. I knocked on the door a couple of times, but no one answered, so I decided to wait, feeling more stupid and heartbroken by the minute. When a couple walked by and stared at me sitting on the floor, I realized how humiliating it would be if it wasn't Gloria. But if it wasn't her, then where was she? Why don't we see what's going on there, huh? Let me help you up. I looked up and saw Davida bending down and holding out her hand to me. Where have you been? I grumbled, letting her help me up. I was doing my homework. Besides, I had to pick this up, she said, waving a key card. I shouldn't have done that. This is the place for their big game. My worst fear was embodied inside. Gloria was there, kneeling in front of Brad. They were completely surrendering to the moment, and there was a smug expression of satisfaction on Brad's face. They didn't even notice when I came in. Who should I deal with first? Brad was a scoundrel, but Gloria... Oh, Gloria, I thought you were supposed to be my only one, my true love, and now this. Betrayal. We will never recover from this. We will never have our children. We will never grow old together. But she was drunk. Completely drunk. Maybe it wasn't just her fault. Of course, she was trying to attract attention to herself. But is it my fault that I couldn't protect her, no matter how badly she treated me? Wasn't I supposed to protect her no matter what? Shouldn't I have gotten her out of this situation even if she got mad? This wouldn't have happened if I had done it, if I hadn't sulked. What kind of husband was I? I turned around and saw Davida entering the room behind me with a phone in her hand, recording everything that was happening. What the hell are you doing? I growled at her. What does it look like? She snapped back. We may both need it later. Why? I asked, starting to move forward, desperately trying to separate them. Because it's not what it seems, she said, moving closer to see better. Davida? Brad croaked. Damn it! How did you get here? You were supposed to be with Hope and... She looked at him, and if there was a smile on her face, it was the kind of smile I never wanted to see. Don't do this, Davida warned, grabbing my shoulder when she saw me moving towards Brad with the intention of harming him. Why not? I growled, trying to shake her off. Because even with his pants down, he would still hurt you, unless you suddenly mastered MMA skills. I stood and watched Brad pull on his pants. He looked upset, but it was clear that his concern was not directed at me. Well, what about you? What is it? She asked sharply. No, I admitted. A cuckold and a coward. It's just great. So get your wife out of here, she instructed. Take her to your room, but before you do anything, you need to talk to me. Yes, good, I muttered, walking up to Gloria, who had fallen into a stupor. That damn smile was still on her face. Unbelievable. I picked her up and slung her over my shoulder. She was a dead weight, completely out of my mind. Brad caught my eye, and his furious expression was replaced for a moment by an expression of self-satisfaction. Victory. I turned away, full of disgust and shame. I'm serious, Davida said, taking a business card out of her purse and stuffing it into my jacket pocket. Call me as soon as you put her to bed. I will do that, I replied, heading down the hall, although I had no intention of doing so. I carried Gloria back to the room and put her on the bed. After a moment's hesitation, I pulled off her dress and covered her with a blanket. I couldn't help but look at her while I was doing it. I think we interrupted them, at least before things got this far. As I sat there, staring at her beautiful ivory shoulders peeking out from under the covers, I couldn't help but break down and cry, hard. What had happened to us? I thought things were perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but we had weathered the storm. And then she went and did this. Why had she let things spiral so out of control? Why hadn't I done more to take care of her? I don't know how long I stayed like that, but eventually I heard a knock on the door, which turned into a pounding when I didn't respond. "Let me in, Rick," I heard Davita's voice say. "I'm going to make a scene if you don't. I'm not leaving." Okay, I muttered, getting up to open the door. "You didn't call me," she said as she walked in, barely glancing at Gloria, who was snoring away without a care in the world. "Sorry," I mumbled. "It's hard, isn't it?" she asked, reaching out to wipe a tear from my cheek. "Yeah. Well, I'm about to make it either better or worse, maybe both, I'm not sure," she said, handing me a stapled set of papers. "What's this?" I asked, suspicious. "Instructional reading," she replied. "This is why I disappeared." "I hope it was worth it," I said. "If you'd been around, maybe none of this would have happened." "That's definitely not true," she said, "and that's why I brought it." "What is it?" "His texts. He thinks he deletes them, but they never really leave the server. That's a good start, but it only shows his side. So, I have a Snoop app on his phone. It's software the PI set me up with. I've had it for a while now. I haven't checked it recently. I wish I had. Because... I'm sorry, Rick. Just read them. But don't start from the beginning unless you want to see the whole sordid mess unfold. That's too much for right now. Just go to page 9 and start where I underlined. Page 9? There are that many? What am I going to discover? Just read it. It'll explain everything. And I'm really, really sorry, Rick. I truly am. "So what are your plans?" I asked as I walked her to the door. "I'm obviously not staying in our room. I wasn't going to anyway. They've got their poker game, remember?" "They're still going through with that?" I asked in disbelief. "What, cancel the most important game in the world just because 2 marriages are falling apart?" she asked with dripping sarcasm. "I thought you played poker, Rick." "Apparently not. I was going to stay with Laura and Hope, but that's not happening now. Hope and I need to have a serious talk. Probably Laura, too. I got my own room, though I doubt I'll be sleeping." "Me neither." "You know," she said softly, "you can join me if you don't want to stay here with her." "I think I'd like that, Davita, but..." "It doesn't have to mean anything like that, Rick," she said, giving me a quick kiss on the cheek and turning away. "But it could mean everything. It's your choice." "I appreciate that." "Not yet," she said, as she walked away. "Just start on page 9. It won't make you feel any better, but at least you'll understand." After Davita left, I lay down on the other bed and began reading page 9, just as she had instructed. Once I finished, I started over from the beginning and read it all the way through. She was right. It was overwhelming to see how things had developed, and she was also right when she said it was better to know. "Wake up!" I urged Gloria, trying to shake her awake. She mumbled. "Come on, let's go," I snapped. "We're getting you out of here." "What?" She began to stir slightly. "What do you..." "We're leaving." "Don't wanna," she muttered in a childish voice, rolling over to go back to sleep. Damn, it was going to be more difficult, but she was still coming with me. I put her dress back on, zipped up her most obvious suitcase, and after picking it up, slung her over my shoulder. Her dress rode up, exposing her to anyone who might have looked. Oh well. Thankfully, the hallway was empty as I carried Gloria to the elevator and out to the car. My thoughts drifted to strange places. Poor Gloria, I thought. You worked so hard to get your body in shape, and he didn't even bother to look. All he saw was your rear and the back of your legs. Your fair skin and beautiful body deserve more time to be appreciated. Oh well, haste makes waste. I tossed her into the back seat of my Lexus. It was nighttime, and the leather was ice cold. She shivered from the cold, but I didn't care. I placed her suitcase in the front seat with me. If I had put it in the trunk, I might have remembered the blanket we kept there, but I doubted I would have covered her up anyway. I glanced at the clock and felt a bit startled. It was only 12:15. I would have guessed dawn was just around the corner. This would make the drop-off easier, but I still needed to make the call. After several rings, her mom answered, "Hi, Rick. I wasn't expecting to hear from you tonight." "I know, Karen. I'm sorry," I replied. "I hope it's not too late." "Well, it's a bit late, but that's okay. How was the reunion? We're still on for dinner tomorrow, right?" "I'm not sure," I mumbled. "Listen, I'm calling to give you a heads up. I'm on my way over. I'm dropping Gloria off with you." "What? You're dropping her off? Why? What happened?" Karen paused, her voice tightening. "She's not drunk, is she?" "Well, yeah, but that's not—" "What did she do?" Karen demanded. "She cheated," I said. "I don't want to be around her right now." "She did what?" Karen practically shouted. "I can't believe it. There must be some explanation." "Oh, there is," I said bitterly. "Don't worry about that. I'll be there in 15 minutes. She greeted me at the door. Without a word, I carried Gloria upstairs to the spare bedroom and laid her down in the bed we had often shared during better times. I noticed Karen glancing at her daughter and the disheveled dress she wore. I turned to head back to the car, but Karen grabbed my arm. "Come back tomorrow," she urged. "You two need to talk." "I'm not interested," I replied. "There's nothing to discuss. She'll just lie anyway." "You don't know that," Karen insisted. "You have to give her a chance to explain. Don't throw away 10 good years over one mistake." "I didn't throw anything away," I said, my voice rising with intensity, though I wasn't shouting. Karen flinched. "I'm sorry," I quickly apologized. "I didn't mean to take it out on you." "It's all right," she said, gently patting my arm. "This is a stressful time." "Thanks. But please come back tomorrow, 12:30 like you planned. If not for her, do it for me." "That's a bit unfair, Karen," I said. "Not like you." "I know," she admitted, "but it shows how serious I am. Please come." "Okay," I sighed. "You win, but only for you." "Thank you," she said, taking my hand in both of hers and squeezing it warmly. "We'll figure this out." "I've already figured it out," I responded. While returning to the hotel, I realized it was still not even 1 p.m. On impulse, I stopped by the ATM near the hotel and withdrew $5,000. I had to rearrange some funds and take a hit, but I managed to get it. I prayed they'd let me join the game. After taking a shower, I quickly ate an energy bar and drank some water. It's important to stay hydrated when planning to stay up late. By 1:15, I was on my way to room 607, cash in hand. We sat in an awkward silence, waiting for the last player to show up. Naturally, it was Brad. He looked a bit sheepish as he walked in, but brightened when he saw me. "You're here?" he said, laughing. "So, I take your wife, and now you're here to take my money or defend her honor or something? That's rich." "Just here for a casual game," I fibbed. "We've already established she doesn't have any honor, so don't worry about that. I think you're a jerk for what you did, but I've always thought that. So, let's just play." "I don't think things will go the way you expect," Roger said. "We could just take your money and kick you out, but my wife would kill me." "Well, at least you still have a wife to worry about killing you, so you're ahead of me there," I replied. "Just a friendly game, right? Don't worry, I'll leave as soon as I'm out." I disrupted their game that night. Even without all the drama, I would have done so anyway. By insisting on joining the game, thanks to Roger's wife Claire, I found out she had turned it from a casual medium-stakes game into a competitive showdown. They wanted me out, but they also wanted my money, so we went ahead with the game. The atmosphere was tense for the first few hands, but eventually, the old friends started bantering, and it felt just like the old days, even if I wasn't part of them back then. "Do you like poker?" "I do." I'm eager to recount how the night unfolded, relive each hand, and impress you with my skill. But this isn't just a card story. There were 7 of us: me, Brad, Dave, Roger, Kenny Kirk, who couldn't even look at me, and 2 other guys from their circle who I vaguely remembered. We sat around the same table where I had earlier removed Gloria. Luckily, it didn't have any lingering odors. Blending into the background, I discovered that Brad usually cleaned up in these games. I think he anticipated doing well tonight, but I started to suspect early on that he was holding a card or two and began watching him closely. As the game progressed, I became certain of it. When I caught his eye as he was about to play a card, he realized I knew his secret and didn't dare play it. Knowing I had every reason to expose him, he had no choice but to play honestly. I've played penny ante games and seen players lose $75, so it's easy to see how a pot can grow large when you're buying in for $5,000. These guys talked a lot about how great they used to be, but they were probably not as good as they remembered, possibly still drunk or just out of practice, a likely mix of all 3. It had been a while for me too, but I was completely sober and hadn't forgotten a thing. Without his crutch, Brad turned out to be my favorite type of opponent. All heart and no brains, holding grudges all the while. He was easy to bluff, and manipulating him was a piece of cake, something everyone could see from a mile away. By the end, the only other player ahead of me was Kenny, who managed to take home a respectable $1,500 or so. Dave and a few others were either even or slightly short, but the rest of the winnings were mine. The best part? $22,000 of that was Brad's. That's right, Mr. Big Shot. What a fool. Brad's big move, apart from cheating, was over-betting to intimidate everyone. This group was inexperienced enough to fold every time he tried it. I'd seen that tactic before and called him down almost every time. I lost a few hands that way, but 2 of them were huge pots. He kept making the same mistakes, not knowing when to quit while he was behind. He kept making ridiculous, impossible bets in an attempt to recover, demanding double or nothing side bets repeatedly. It can really add up. "Hey, hold on a second," he said, glaring as we all started to cash out. "You can't just walk away without giving me a chance to win my money back." "Brad, we're done here," one of the others, Doug, I think, said. He seemed overly concerned with making sure everyone got their chips in and the correct amount of money back. It seemed like he remembered more about playing with Brad than he was letting on. "What about you then, huh?" Brad asked me with a smirk. "Does it make it all better to wipe me out like this? It doesn't change what happened." "Not really," I said, giving him a wide grin, "but it definitely helps." "Then give me another shot. One hand, just you and me." "You've had more than enough chances," I said, waving my cash in front of him. "Sorry, but I don't think you have anything left to bet. I don't want your junky car. Got a Rolex or something?" "No, but I do have one thing you might be interested in," he said, grabbing his phone and heading out the door. "I'll be right back, don't move." We all sat there in another one of those awkward silences. Poor Kenny still couldn't bring himself to look at me, so I entertained myself by invading his personal space, glaring at him and watching him squirm. "She won't talk to me," Brad said as he re-entered the room. "Dave, Raj, go get her. Bring her here. Don't take no for an answer." "You mean we have to—" "Just get her, for heaven's sake." He turned to the rest of us as they left. "Anyone here still smoke? How about a smoke break? Want anything from the minibar? The little bottles are still cold, and I think there's some beer, too." "I'll have a water," I said. "Of course you will," he replied, tossing me a bottle. "No beer for you." "It's almost dawn. I'm having water, too," Doug said. "I think I'll be heading out now." No, hold on," Brad said casually. He seemed quite at ease for someone who had just spent $20,000. "It's just getting interesting now." A few minutes later, Dave and Roger reappeared, literally forcing Devita into the room. "Brad, what the hell is going on?" she shouted. "The only communication we're having now is through my lawyer. Why did you have these jerks drag me up here?" She glanced around the room with some unease, realizing she was alone in a hotel room with several men, all of whom were friends with the one she was in conflict with. But when she saw me, she visibly relaxed. She raised an eyebrow at me, and I mirrored the gesture. I had no clue what was happening. "I don't know why I'm here, but you can—" "Shut up," Brad interrupted. His tone was menacing, and she immediately backed down. It was clear he had intimidated her before. He was a big guy. "Do you like the house?" "What?" "It's a simple question," he snarled. "Do you like our damn house?" "It's going to be my house before I'm—" "Just shut up," he snapped. "Sit down. I've got some news for you." She walked over and stood next to Kenny, who was sitting beside me. After a moment, even he caught on and moved so she could take his seat. "Enrico and I will soon have to pay a huge sum, and we will not be able to pay it because of little Ulrich," he explained to her. "The store will probably go bankrupt." "What the hell are you talking about?" "I kind of took 15,000 out of the safe before we left on Friday," he admitted. "To the game, which I lost." "What did you do?" she exclaimed in horror. "He's going to do something terrible to you. Literally, how could you act so recklessly?" "It's not my fault," he defended himself. "I always win." "You're always cheating," someone chimed in, probably Doug. "That's the thing," he continued. "Most of my stake in the startup is related to the house." "A house?" she screamed. "How could you do this without my signature?" He didn't say anything. "Oh," she said weakly, tears streaming down her face. "I think you're a liar in many ways, aren't you?" "Calm down, there is a way out of this," he said. "And that's where you come into the game." "Here's my suggestion," he said, turning to me. "You and me, hand in hand, right against each other. All the money you took from me is against her." "Her?" I asked. "I am," she said. "Are you crazy?" "What she said," I agreed. "It makes sense," he insisted. "I slept with your wife, now you can sleep with mine. You've always wanted her, everyone wants to." "I'm not your wife anymore, you piece of shit," she blurted back angrily. "What makes you think—" "Wait," I said, touching her hand. "Brad, apart from the absolutely disgusting idea that you're pimping this wonderful man—" "Oh, she's real," he began. "Not to mention how disgusting it is," I interrupted him. "I can't imagine a single case where intimacy would cost more than $20,000. "I'm sorry, Davida," I said, turning to her. "You know how beautiful I think you are, but—" "I thought you were 15, but now you're 20, she remarked. "You're a real loser, aren't you, Brad? And don't worry, Rick," she added, giggling. "I don't think I'm worth that much either." "Maybe more than once," Brad said. "Kenny Kirk. For how much would someone like her agree?" "How should I know?" "I don't do that," Kenny replied defensively. "Come on, we all know that," Brad said, drawing laughter from the audience. I suddenly felt very sorry for Kenny. "You may never have had a girl of her level, but you know exactly how much it will cost." "Well," Kenny said, looking Davida up and down, "she's not that young anymore." "Jesus Christ, I'm 28, Davida protested, and there was an involuntary resentment in her voice. "Let me out of here. It's humiliating." 1,000, Kenny finally said. "It seems that way." "That way you'd get her 22 times, Brad calculated. "This is more than fair. I took your wife only once, and then only for 3/4 because I didn't have time to finish." "This is crazy. I would never do that," Davida spat out. "Sorry, Rick, no offense." "Are you saying you won't let him treat you like a doormat?" I asked. "I'd be insulted if you thought I'd ever do something like that to you." She smiled in appreciation and patted my hand. "You two are both so kind," Brad said. "But I wonder if you've really considered this, Davida. If the shop goes under, it's not just the house we'll lose. I won't be able to pay you any alimony either. I'll be in a tough spot, too. You'll have to get a real job and stop pretending with your interior design thing." "It's not pretending," Davida said, her voice defensive. "Yeah," Brad scoffed. "How much did you make last year? You might want to rethink this whole situation, just giving you a heads up." "She probably wouldn't do it anyway," Kenny chimed in. I know women like her, Rick. She'd string you along just to get you to pay up, and then she wouldn't give you anything. Oh, so now you're talking to me? I asked sarcastically. Thanks for the update. Here's one for you. Water's wet. He slouched into his chair. I hated being part of the group that put him down, but honestly, he was unbearable and had a role in what happened tonight. At the very least, he was an accessory, so no mercy. Fair enough, Brad said. The payment isn't due for, He checked his phone. 2.5 weeks. You don't have to pay me back if she doesn't do it. Plenty of time for you to get them in, but not so many that you'll be sick of her. It took me a lot longer than that. God, you are such an asshole, Davida fumed. I can't get away from you fast enough. And one more thing, sweetheart, he said. You probably won't even have to do it. What? You're just collateral. He might lose, and you won't have to do anything with him. But he needs to know you're willing, or he won't bet with me. And if I lose, you'll still have to go through with it, or it's not a bet, but that's between you and him. I'm not betting with you anyway, I said. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been fun, but I think it's time for me to leave. I wish we'd never come to this stupid reunion. But we did. I'm looking forward to never seeing any of you again. Except you, Davita. You seem really nice. I hope everything works out for you. If you need help leaving... No. Wait. Please, she said, grabbing my arm and looking into my eyes. Rick, can't you just... I don't know. She trailed off. We shared a moment there, brief by most standards, yet it felt like both an eternity and a split second simultaneously. I could do this for her. All right, I'll play one hand, I said. That's perfect, Brad responded with a grin. You sit over there and I'll take this spot. Raj, are you up for dealing? Sure thing, Raj replied lazily, suddenly oozing confidence. He, Brad, and Dave gathered at one end of the table, forming a united front. An empty chair waited for me on the other side, and I didn't like the look of it. The fix seemed obvious. These guys were awful poker players and couldn't conceal anything, especially Roger. One thing, I said. Doug, could you grab my jacket? It's over there on the chair. Also, could you get the deck of cards from the outside pocket? It's on the left side, I think. I picked them up at the liquor store earlier. Cards? Dave asked. Yes, I said. I think we should use a fresh deck for this hand, given how much is at stake. He and Brad exchanged glances, but there was nothing they could do. Gotcha. Seriously, dude, Disney princesses? Doug grumbled as he opened the new deck. Hey, it was either that or My Little Pony. I'm no brony, I replied flatly. I don't even know what that means, Davita said, but Kenny did. I could tell. Neither do I, really, I said, sharing a smile as the game began. Brad didn't seem to be able to win a fair game, or maybe luck wasn't on his side. Either way, my full house beat his straight. He was just one card away from a straight flush, but that's too bad. I can't believe this, he said with a sour expression. Well, you two sort it out, and when you're done with her, we'll arrange for you to wire me the money. I don't owe you any money, I replied. I never did. What? That was the deal, her for the money. Brad, have you ever gambled before? Doug asked, who seemed to have lost interest in being part of Brad's fan club. It wasn't her for the money, it was her against the money. You lost a ton. Then you put up something else and lost that too. End of story. Let's go, Davita said quietly, taking my hand. I never want to see you again, Brad. Don't come to the house. As long as we still have it, you're not welcome. Have Hope and her sister come and collect your stuff. Hope? Yeah, I found out about that too, you jerk. Maybe her husband will let you stay with them. I'll ask him for you. Davita, Just shut up, she said, and we walked out the door. Your room or mine? She asked. Oh, definitely yours, I said. My room has a rumpled bed that still smells like her. We sat in the 2 chairs in her room, locking eyes. After a short while, she stood up, fetched 2 bottles of water, and handed me one. So, what are you going to do? She asked. About what? About her. Ah, I said. We're basically done. The only thing left is the aftermath. Are you sure? You two have been together for a long time. You seem perfect for each other. Really? I snorted. That's just one woman's opinion and it's not hers. I don't believe that, she said. I think she just got swept up in something that spiraled out of control. That's all. No offense, DD, I said harshly, but you've been willing to overlook a lot more than I ever could. The plans she made, the things she said in those texts. How can I possibly forgive that? Can you forgive, even if you can't forget? She asked, smiling. That's just a cliché. And why are you smiling? I was beginning to get frustrated. This isn't funny. I don't find it funny. Oh, I'm sorry, she said quickly. I didn't mean it like that. Well, what then? You called me DD. You never have before. You never let me. That's not true at all. I never really got to know you well, I said. You were up there on the pedestal, like the prom queen. I was down here. There's no DD down here. Only Davida. I think I owe you an apology as well, she said. No, you didn't do anything to me. You were always kind. I was just invisible to you, I replied. It's not your fault. I'm not going to go through with it, you know, I said. Go through with what? Any of it. I'm going to return the money. If I could separate it so it wouldn't affect you, I'd take him down in a heartbeat. But I couldn't live with myself if I ended up hurting you in the process. Oh, Rick, you're just the sweetest man, she said, wiping her eyes. But do what you need to do. No. Seriously, you can. I'm not as worthless as he makes me seem. He just likes to keep me down. Still, no, I mean it. I might not have much right now, but that's just because I'm stuck here. I'm actually doing pretty well. I have a degree, connections, and plenty of opportunities if I move to the city. That's where we are. I see. Correction, that's where I am, I said. Damn it, I need to start thinking about everything differently. Don't rush it, Rick, she said, standing up and sitting on the bed beside the chair to wrap her arm around me. It's going to take time. It's going to hurt. A lot. What's your secret? I asked. It seems like we're in the same situation. Not really, she laughed. My ship has long since sailed. I've had 6 years to come to terms with it. Wow, 6 years. I know. Don't say it, she said. I'm aware that I'm weak and a coward. I should have left ages ago, but fear held me back. It's tough, I said. I'm not judging you, I promise. And I've had serious job offers, she said defensively. A lot of them. I believe you. I could make a few calls and have a job, or rather a career, by the end of next week. I wouldn't be starting from the bottom. That's great. I just need to move to the city. We sat in silence, each lost in our own thoughts. So, she began. So what? 22 times. I told you we're not going there, I said. Then why did you play? She asked. I thought that's what you wanted. No, yes, I'm not sure. Oh, well. She gazed deeply into my eyes, then said, Oh no, you did that to let me off the hook, didn't you? You were trying to give it all back, for me. Yeah. But that's so much money, and he hurt you so badly. I shrugged, and they say chivalry is dead. She leaned in and gave me a tight hug. So why did you play the prince's cards? They were trying to screw me over. A man has his pride, you know. You might not think so after tonight, but... Oh, you do, she said. And it just happened to turn out this way? Well, I smiled. I can't let him win, clearly. Clearly? She laughed. You're amazing. You think so? I laughed back. So, about that bet, she said. I told you not to worry about it, I said a bit sharply. It was never about that. You don't have to do it. What if I want to? What? I've always liked you, Rick. Really? Yes, really. Oh, do tell, I said, smiling. Since when? Since way back when, she said. Please tell me you remember how I used to bend over in front of you all the time. Don't hurt a girl's pride like that. Of course I do, I said, smiling at the memory. It was one of the highlights of my life back then. Was it just back then? She asked with a charming pout. No, it's still happening. But didn't you do that with everyone? Definitely not, she replied, clearly offended. I might have teased the jocks a lot, but who else did I ever do that for besides them and you? Kenny said you did, and also, what's his name? I saw him tonight. Oh, Pat Lowry. They're lying. I never did anything like that for them. Never. So, why me then? To be honest, it was Gloria who set it off, she admitted, looking a bit embarrassed. You were so kind and brave for sticking with her despite all the trouble she caused. I really admired that about you. I started noticing you more and realized how kind, funny, and smart you were. So, let me get this straight, I said. You were impressed by how I treated Gloria, my girlfriend, so you teased me to get my attention? I know, she grinned at me. I was young, okay? I didn't have many ways to show a boy I liked him. That was my go-to. And what about now? I asked, grinning back. Pretty much the same thing, she said, leaning forward and placing a hand on my chest. My approach might be a bit more refined now. She leaned in, her face close to mine, leaving the choice up to me. I leaned in as well, and our lips gently met. Before that, I had only kissed Gloria, so for a moment I caught myself comparing the two kisses until I decided to focus on the present. The kiss was pleasant and lasted just as long as it needed to. When we parted, I asked, "Would you go on a date with me if I asked?" I do not know, she replied. Honestly, who can say? So many things had to happen for this to happen. Oh. It sounded like she was gently letting me down, but even now, 10 years later, it was still a no. But I know for a fact that I liked you, she added, bending down to kiss me again. This kiss was longer. She ran her hand over me, but I kept mine to myself, and she noticed it. I know it's probably too early, she said, but if it's not... I didn't have to think long. Gloria and I were over, and my future was uncertain. I may not have been a good match, but this beautiful woman not only wanted me, but also loved me. It didn't feel like pity. Not so soon. I growled and leaned in for a deeper kiss. She screamed and pulled me towards her. We kissed, exploring each other. Rick, she said dreamily, this is the first time. Can I ask you something? I know you won, so do what you want, but... It's not about the bet, I said, pulling away from her. I would like you to understand this. Okay, she smiled at me. I'm sorry. I promise we can do whatever you want later, but this is the first time... Yes? Will you make love to me? I thought that's exactly what we were going to do, I said, embarrassed. Rick, I want you to make love to me, not just intimacy. That's all they've ever done to me. That's all Brad has ever done, and so has everyone before him. They were all boys. I have a feeling that things will be different with you. I'll do my best, I said. Don't worry, I can handle it. Because, like you said, Brad just stopped treating me like a girl of easy virtue, she said, almost crying. I don't think I could have borne it if you had done the same. I would never do that, I promised. Unless we're going to play some kind of role-playing game in the future. You're funny. I don't even know exactly what I'm asking for. I think we can sort this out, I said. We kissed for what seemed like an eternity, enjoying every moment. She was just the second person I was with, and she was absolutely incredible. I was just glad that she was on the same wavelength and openly talked about her desires. When I started kissing her neck, I decided it was time to pay attention to the obvious problem. You know, I've never had anyone but her, I said. I know, she replied, pulling me back into her arms. Are you worried? A little bit, I admitted. I understand that this may spoil the mood, but what she wrote in these messages made me... Shh, she said, gently lowering me. She never said anything about it. She said terrible things, but that wasn't what they were about. But I am not her, and I will never be her, she said. But I believe that I have my own unique qualities. I think you'll really enjoy being with me, she added with a smile. Definitely, I said, bending down and gently wrapping my arms around her waist. I need to tell you something, she said, bending down to kiss me gently. And I'm saying this for a reason. The way you've treated me so far, the way you've kissed me, is already the best thing I've ever experienced. I want to make love to you so much that I can hardly wait. Oh, it was nice to hear that. So, can we start now? What is it? She asked, playfully biting my nose. How could I refuse her that? Answer, no. After we finished, I rolled onto my side and we lay there smiling at each other. It was, she said, reaching out and putting her hand on me. I don't even know how to describe it. It won't always be like this, I said. I know, she sighed. How soon will the magic disappear? Is that what you mean? That's what spoils the mood, Rick. I'm saying the opposite, silly, I replied. It was just the beginning. It will only get better from now on. Just imagine how great it will be when we get to know each other's bodies even better. Don't even think about it, she chuckled, wiping her forehead with the back of her hand, then sobered. Rick, I'm only going to say this once, because something might hurt. I've been with both of you, and I want her to give it up, even for a minute with him. I have to tell you that when she wakes up, she will regret more than anyone on this planet. Davida. No, I'm serious. She will persistently pursue you. You need to be strong to stand up to her if that's what you want, because the two of you have a lot in common. Yeah, well, our recent history isn't too good, I grumbled. It makes me question everything about our past, so she can attack me as much as she wants, but the situation doesn't look promising for her. It's probably for the best now, Davida said, snuggling up to me, because I can't believe I'm going to have to do this 20 more times. Would you stop it? I asked, disappointed, trying to pull away. Would you listen to the tone of this conversation? She replied, hugging me with unexpected strength. Don't you hear what I'm saying? Do I have to explain that we just had the best intimacy of my life? The only good intimacy I've ever had? Is that what you need to hear? Is it true? You better believe it, she said. The sun rises and sets with you. Well then, yes, I really need to hear it, I said, rolling her onto her back and starting to kiss her. Jerk, she said, taking a sharp breath when I did something she liked. But you probably needed to hear it. I'm sure you were interested. I was a little surprised, I admitted sheepishly. So now you've heard it. Don't make me say it again unless you really need to. I don't want you to be crazy about me. Are you sure about this? I asked, and started provoking her. No. Oh no. I'm not sure, she gasped. Wait a second. What? What's your schedule for today? I don't really have one, I replied. I have to meet her at 12:30. I would have missed it, but I promised her mom that I would be there, and I have to go home to work tomorrow, so I have to leave at about 8:30 or so. It's still a long way to 12:30. That's what I think. We're probably both hungry, but it can wait. I think we should relax a little more, take a shower, and then you go to your meeting. After that, you'll come back here and we can have dinner somewhere. That sounds great. And to some nice place. One bird told me that you have enough money to take me to a fancy place. A smart bird, but a chatterbox. Maybe he will help you with your choice. Then we'll come back here, have fun, take a shower, and repeat as necessary until it's time for you to go home. You're a planning genius. Isn't that right? Is there anything else I can say? Can I stop you? You could. Just put something in my mouth, she said with a mischievous smile. But before you go, I want to say that I like the way things are going between us. Me too. But why bring up this issue now? I hope we'll be busy until the last minute, she said, hugging me. I felt like I was reacting instantly. I'm going to support you in this argument, she said. I don't want to sound too intrusive, but I hope that after we repeat this 20 more times, we will spend enough time together to understand what awaits us next. I don't want to hurt you by saying this, but it seems to me that we are moving too fast, I said. I have nothing against you, but right now I feel a little awkward about it. I haven't even solved all the issues with her and haven't heard what she wants to say. Okay, she said, leaning back and giving us some space, although she continued to stroke me. Maybe it's too early. Maybe we're in a hurry. Don't you think I'm putting pressure on you? Well, no, not really, but Oh, that's right, she interrupted. I forgot that I had time to recover. You're still in pain, you still have feelings for her, and your whole world has been turned upside down in just a few hours. I do not know if I still love her, I said. When I think about what happened, I'm sure I don't like it, but then… It's okay to be confused, darling, she said. So what should I do? I asked, feeling desperate. What should I do? Are you asking me? She looked at me in surprise. Wow, it must be really hard for you. I'm the one they've been messing with for so long. I, who am definitely vitally interested in how things turn out. I'm asking anyway, I said. I'm asking because you've been dealing with this for so long, and I don't care about your motives. What would you like you to do? What would I like me to do? What would I do if I were you? Yes. You obviously need to talk to her, so do it. Find out. Find out what? Find out the truth, she said, turning on her side. Not just her apologies. Of course she'll apologize, but you have a trump card. You know what she was saying behind your back. Compare that to what she's saying now and see what you believe, but don't play that card right away. Start with this. And I think I should try not to get mad, I said. I don't think I'm old enough for this. Who says you can't get upset? Davida asked. What is written there is really terrible. I almost didn't want to show it to you because it hurt so much. Then why did you do it? Because it was so terrible, and she was there with him, you know. You needed to know because she could distort everything, make Brad seem worse than he really is, if that was even possible. Knowledge is power, I said with a grin. That's right, so what? A bet, chart. Is any of this still going on? I don't see why not, I said. Yes, she exclaimed triumphantly. This time we're going to do the same thing. Davida must have had some foresight, because I was really late for Karen's house. We had a long and stressful session, and just when we thought we were done, the shower proved otherwise, which put me 20 minutes behind schedule. I was starting to think you weren't coming, Karen said with relief as she opened the door. Sorry I'm late, I apologized. I should have called. I didn't mean to be so inconsiderate. No problem, she replied. We're just glad you're here. She's in the backyard. When I saw Gloria, it was clear that she was ready to fight. It was warm in the backyard, and she was sitting at a glass table in burgundy shorts and a purple and white knit top. I liked this outfit. Her hair was styled in a Gorgon Medusa style, cascading over her shoulders, begging for a touch, which only accentuated her striking green eyes. Hi, she greeted me with restraint. Hi, I replied dispassionately. However, the effect of her outfit was somewhat reduced, due to the dark circles under her bloodshot eyes. She was wearing light makeup, but it couldn't hide the tense expression that always appeared on her face when she was suffering from a severe hangover. I had seen that look many times before her arrest for drunk driving. She was definitely in pain. Well, that's good, because so am I. We sat in silence, just looking at each other, and as the silence dragged on, it became clear to Karen that everything was not going right. For God's sake, you two, she said. This is ridiculous. You're here to talk, so start talking. And you're staying? I asked. I want her to be here, Gloria said. You can be scary when you're angry. I don't mind, I replied, turning to Karen. I didn't ask you to leave. Honey, why don't you start? I want to, Gloria said. Rick, I'm sorry. And you? I asked. Yes, Rick, I'm really, really sorry. I'm sorry for what? I snapped. For being caught sleeping with this guy? Because I saw you with him? Or maybe for the way you humiliated me in front of 100 people? For everything, for all this, she said meekly. I was an idiot. I take full responsibility, well, almost full responsibility. Almost? I asked sharply. We both know I have a problem, she said. I shouldn't have drunk that first time. After that, everything went wrong, and I just couldn't stop. Oh, really? I replied. I think I remember how you used to flirt with him and treat me like total trash long before we had our first drink. I know, she said. I was completely out of my mind. She leaned forward. But do you know what I think? Tell me. I think someone must have slipped me something, she said conspiratorially. I mean, before that. That's the only explanation for why I was acting like that, don't you think? I mean, it's not me, you know that. Wow. From a strategic point of view, I thought it was too early for her to play this card. One would think that she would try to make amends a little bit first. It makes sense, Karen chimed in. Otherwise, why would she be acting so strangely? Yes, why? I asked. Anyway, let's take you to the hospital and do some tests right now. If there's something there, we have to press charges. No, Gloria replied quickly. I'm sure it's already slipped my mind. It's a pity you didn't take me in last night. Besides, even if it was there, what could I prove? No one saw it. And I didn't sleep with him, she said firmly. You didn't do it, I replied. It wasn't a question. But I think Davida has a video in her phone that might indicate otherwise. Is there a video? She began to cry. Oh my God, Rick. Don't worry, I said. You will not be replicated all over the internet, although you deserve it. The video was shot by a woman as proof, not by some sneaky guy. Although I'm surprised he didn't have some kind of record. I think we'll figure it out. But that's the point, she insisted. That jerk, he took advantage of me. You saw me. I wasn't even there, actually. I didn't even know what was going on. You know how I'm getting. Isn't that right? I asked sarcastically. Where have you been? She sobbed. I know I ruined everything, but where did you go? You just left me there all alone. You let these guys take advantage of me. You're my husband. You have to protect me. To protect you from yourself, is that what you want to say? Oh, it was priceless. So it's my fault for something? No, she hesitated. That's not what I meant. I take full responsibility for how this all started, but you should have been there, Rick. We both made mistakes. I know what I've done, I confessed. Okay, she said with a sigh of relief. So we can... But before you say anything else, wait a minute, I said, getting up. I forgot something. I'll be right back. Where are you going? Karen asked, probably thinking that I was going to run away. Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere, I reassured her. I had to bring something. Just give me a minute. As I walked out to the car, I reflected on what Davida had said earlier. It didn't matter to me what her intentions were or where we were going. She had just done me the biggest favor of my life. Gloria was so confident in her manipulation that she didn't even bother to disguise her lies. She just came in, guns blazing, trying to pin everything on me as quickly as possible. Spin? Hell, she was a full-blown helicopter. What's this? Gloria asked when I returned and dropped a stapled stack of papers onto the table in front of her with a dramatic thud. Oh, this little thing. It may not look like it, Gloria, but it's a rope, and you just used it to hang yourself. Huh? Take a look, I said. It's the entire history of your text conversations with Brad. It's what... Wait, what? All of them, Gloria. Davida found something on his phone. Go on, take a look. I pushed it toward her, but she recoiled as if it were poison, which, in a way, it was. Tears began to stream down her face. What's going on? Karen asked. What is this? I believe Davida called it some instructional reading, I replied. Let's flip to page 9, where she suggested I start. I think that's a good place. No. Gloria whispered, her tears flowing harder. And you think we can actually do this? That's Brad asking. Here's my loving wife's answer. I know we can. How? He asks. I go batshit crazy. I have to be way over the top. He'll hate it, and we'll fight. If I treat him like crap long enough, he'll walk away. He always has to cool down so he's not too mean to me. Find some way to keep him busy, and we'll have all the time we need. That will work? Oh yeah, if you knew some of the stuff I've pulled. He's used to it. I'll have to kiss his ass for a while, but it won't be long. He'll be mad, but he'll get over it. And we'll have our fun. Yeah, but what about Dee Dee? Taken care of. How? Hope will keep her busy. Why? Because I'll stop it with her if she doesn't. Hope too? You're so bad? And guess what, Karen? There's a winking smiley face at the end of that. But wait, this is the best part for me. They talk details for a few more lines, and then she says this. But if we get caught, you're taking the fall, dude. I'll say you roofied me and then turn it around on him and make it his fault. I used to do it all the time. Me? You're the one who started it? Don't worry. I'll make sure he doesn't come after you. I can handle him. Oh, I know, lover, but can you handle me? And that's where that part ends. Gloria, is this true? Karen asked. She stayed silent for the longest time. I just sat there, staring at her with my arms folded. Okay, yes, she finally admitted. I know this is bad, but Rick, baby, we can get through this. I love you, only you, I swear. It's just that Brad. And she broke down crying again. Just tell us, honey. I had to give it to Karen. She must really love Gloria if she could still try to coax her after hearing what a manipulative person her daughter was. I was curious to hear the rest myself, just for kicks. Brad was always the one I could never have, she said, her voice trembling as she tried to pull herself together. He was so handsome back then, and he treated me so horribly. I just wanted him to want me, to see how stupid he was for not being with me all along. So you never loved me, I spat at her. Of course I love you, she insisted, reaching for my arm. I pulled away. You're my one and only. You always will be, I swear, but he was just, I don't know. I guess he was the one that got away. Oh, Gloria, Karen said. It didn't start that way, Gloria said defensively. At first, I just wanted him to see me, to see us, and make him regret not being with me. But then I saw his picture with Davida, and he still looked so good, and she's so beautiful. I knew I couldn't compete. I think what she's saying, Karen, I said, with a weird mix of amusement and frustration, is that I'm the reason she couldn't compete. I'm not good-looking enough to make Brad jealous. She'd be embarrassed of me. Isn't that right? She didn't respond, but the tears started flowing again. But you saw the messages. You saw how he manipulated me, she insisted. He kept saying that I could be much better, asking why I was with you, and claiming that you didn't appreciate me. It's all nonsense, I said. You were the initiator, not him. As for the fact that I'm unattractive, okay, maybe that's true, but the rest? I worshipped you, Gloria. I know, she replied. I knew it even when I was in love with it. Then I came up with the idea that I would let him possess me, but I would make him finish quickly and he would feel awkward. I thought I would humiliate him. Are you crazy? Karen asked her. A guy like him wouldn't care, as long as he got what he wanted. You've always prided yourself on being a great judge of people, but you've behaved like a naive, spoiled child. I know, Mom. We can go to a psychologist, Rick. It was just a stupid infatuation that I let get out of control. It didn't mean anything. It was... Don't even start, I snapped. Don't you dare say it was just intimacy, if that's what you're talking about. First of all, the closeness between us was special, or at least that's what I thought. It was supposed to be just us, for the rest of our lives. I know, Rick. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. Leave it alone, I interrupted her. Even if it's true, what about those messages? The ones where you insulted me, bragged about how easy it was to manipulate me, how stupid I was. That's not what I meant, honey. You have to understand. I don't want to talk about it anymore. And don't call me honey. You're not going to make it. You're a manipulative liar. I'll never be able to trust you. I will never trust you again. Rick, Karen said, shocked. Stop it. Stop talking to her like that. I know what she did was terrible. But can't you see how sorry she is? I'm sure you two can handle it. You've been together for so long. And that's not all, I bristled. What about loyalty? Gloria, I never, ever told you about the terrible torment I went through for you in high school, because it would have hurt you too much. But you must have known something about it. Everyone, literally everyone, wanted me to leave you because you were so damn unattractive. I screamed and finally realized it, so I took a deep breath and calmed down. And that's how you repay me? After everything that happened, are you telling me that you planned this before the eye surgery? Gloria exclaimed in horror. No, that's not true, honey. I just meant that I planned to come back beautiful, that's all, I swear. Leave it alone. Like I'm going to believe anything you say. I chuckled. You're a liar and a fraud. That's how this conversation started, until I caught you lying. I've never… Stop it, Karen wailed. Both of you, stop right now. I can't believe this is actually happening. You're going to give me grandchildren and now this? Oh, grandchildren, I laughed bitterly, picking up the folder again. Should we tell her about our children, Gloria? Please don't, she sobbed, covering her face with her hands. Please stop. Oh, no, I begged, flipping through the pages. Let's look at the 11th page, towards the end. Let's see what it says. Are you sure? Brad is asking this. Of course I'm sure, Gloria replies. I haven't slept with him for a week. This should be a revelation to you. I'll try to keep him away, and if you swim well, you have a better chance. Why? I want at least one beautiful child. After that, he will be able to give them to me, but I want at least one. Can't you do it with him? What do you think about it? And look at this, Karen, I said, showing her the paper. Do you see this? It's an emoji with your tongue hanging out. Do you see? Can she continue to disrespect me? Oh my God, Karen said, looking at Gloria with disgust. Actually, she could, I said. I'm getting lost here. I can't find it right now. But somewhere here she says she'll give him 2 tries at the reunion. And if it doesn't work, they'll meet halfway to make sure. Can you please stop? Gloria sobbed. And she says that if the child is particularly beautiful, then maybe in the future they could have another one. He says he will be pleased to know that I am raising and paying for his child, and she replies that secrets are exciting. You treated me like a punching bag, didn't you? I growled, turning around and looking at Gloria's face. Karen was slouched in her chair, looking just as worn out as Gloria. I love you, I said as I walked over and kissed her gently on the head. I hope we can talk soon, so I can properly thank you for everything, but I can't be around her. I think you understand. No, I don't suppose you could, she replied flatly. I'll leave these with you both, I said, placing the papers back on the table. I can always get another copy for the lawyers. Wait, Rick, how am I getting home? Gloria asked. How will I get to work tomorrow? I don't know, and I don't care, I said coldly. And when you do get there, you're not staying in the house. Find one of your so-called friends to stay with or sleep around with a bunch of guys. It doesn't matter to me. The locks will be changed by the time you get there. That's my house too, you jerk, Gloria yelled. I paid just as much as you did. I put in just as much effort. Don't mess with me on this. It'll get really ugly. Ugly, ha, I said. Perfect choice of words. That's exactly what this is about, isn't it? It was hard going back to the hotel. Of course, I had deeply offended her, but what did it matter? The love of my life turned out to be a deceiver, manipulating people, who thought I was too unattractive to be the father of her children. Despite the fact that I surpassed Brad in life, earning twice as much and working in a more promising field, he still won in the end, as before, simply because he was more beautiful than me. I really liked Davida, but she wasn't Gloria. No matter what, Gloria will always be the coolest woman I've ever known, and nothing will change that. If Davida and I are going to get along, I'm going to have to learn to appreciate other qualities in her. Nevertheless, she liked me. She wanted to see if there could be more between us, and she was willing to try, despite all the baggage we both carried. Perhaps it wasn't just a recoil. Who knows how amazing she could become after 21 more times spent together. And yes, it was still 21 years old. I tried to tell her that there were 15 or 16 of them left by now, but she insisted that we count by sessions, not by the number of times we slept together. In her opinion, we were still in the middle of the first session, which was pretty cool of her, don't you think?